Consider this, America. States like California are already considering using their public school campuses in the fall as triage staging places for vaccines. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Katie is still on maternity leave, but good news, she'll be back here next week. But before we start, I want to ask everyone to please download our new Freedom Project Media app. We're producing 18 new shows a week, every week, and we've got much more content on the way. Simply search Freedom Project Media in your app store. And make sure, once you download it for free, you allow us, click the button, so we can send you directly our content. Don't have to feed it to you through Facebook. Don't have to feed it through you through anti-American Twitter. Directly from us to you. As the Beatles sang, with love, from us to you. We are joined now by Alex Newman for the Newman Report. Alex, welcome aboard. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me, Duke.
Well, we got another big story here, California, right? I mean, we spend a lot of time in California, metaphorically. And here we are again talking about California because they don't want to teach. They don't want to teach if they don't have to teach. The San Diego teachers would rather teach unvaccinated refugee kids than your actual public school kids. But since they're going to sooner or later have to go back to school, they want to make sure when your kids come back to school, they are mass vaccinated for COVID, even on the campuses. Talk about what the plan is in California.
Yeah, thank you, Duke. And this has kind of turned into a mini scandal in Orange County all the way up into Los Angeles. A video came out of Dr. Chow. He is the top health official for Orange County. And actually, we can air that clip. It's really creepy. People can see for themselves what he's saying.
But for children after 2 doses, it's 100%. The reason why I'm stressing that is we're going to need your support to really educate our kids and our parents that they have to accept the vaccine. Because I feel very strongly that without the vaccine, we have no way out of this pandemic.
All right, so you saw it yourselves, right? This health director is bound and determined to get the kids vaccinated. They're offering the Pfizer vaccine to 16-year-olds. And so this big scandal came out. Parents and even some human rights attorneys were under the impression that they were going to be doing this by force without parental consent. Now, Dr. Chow has kind of walked it back a little bit and said, oh, we're not going to force it. We're going to give parental consent and all the rest of it. But this became a big scandal. The school superintendent for Orange County was involved. Up in L.A. County, they're turning the schools into what they call point of distribution, mass vaccination center sites where kids 16 and up will be able to get these shots. And so people are really upset about this, Duke, and a lot of people went and made their voices heard at the school board meeting.
No, it's a big deal that they're pushing back that way. And we shouldn't be surprised, right, that the schools have long behaved towards, particularly in California, behaved toward parents as if they were the parents and not the parents, right? Well, let me ask you a question. It's a little bit of a non sequitur, I suppose. But why it's great. It's heartening to see moms and dads concerned about what they're putting in their kids' bodies. We don't want our kids to have this vaccine forced upon them. But where is the same commitment to the garbage that's being put in the collective psyches of these kids? What they're being shown, the sex they're having to grapple with, all of the anti-white racism that they're being exposed to. I assume California parents realize that in the final analysis, the warping of a mind is much more a dangerous thing than the warping of a body. Where is the outrage, the commensurate outrage?
Yeah, it's a very good point, Duke. And one of the things, when you go to the Orange County Health Department's website, they've got this whole section on transgenderism and homosexuality for children, where they're encouraging children to believe that there's infinite genders and that they can, mutilate their bodies and take a bunch of hormones to become a new gender. Mind you, all this behind the backs of the parents. California has been a pioneer in going around parents, behind the backs of parents, and helping children to get transgender hormones, transgender treatments, so-called, and all the rest of it. And that's the principle. Right? If the school can go behind the parents' back to help your child become a new gender, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean, why in the world shouldn't they also be deciding, how and when and where and so on the child is going to be vaccinated or inoculated against some disease or another? So the principle is established. The brains of these children are being rotted out with propaganda. And increasingly, parents are just a sideshow. And when we come back from the break on the other side, I do want to show a clip of this incredible human rights attorney, Dr. I think her name is Lee Dundas, and she just takes these people to task for usurping these powers over kids and for violating state and federal and international law. It's really phenomenal to see parents waking up. But you're right, Duke. The fact that we have gotten to this point without just an outright rebellion by parents is really a tragedy.
Back with Alex Newman, the Newman Report. We've been talking about what's going on in California, where they're doing everything they can to sort of force kids to be vaccinated on high school campuses when they come back. They're beginning to transform schools into vaccination sites. Now, enough moms and dads got angry that they started to pull back a little bit, but you mentioned a absolute firebrand. I believe her name is Lee Dundas. She's a human rights attorney. Talk a little bit about her, and then we'll lead into a video clip that you have.
Yeah, so she was one of the concerned parents that just went absolutely ballistic over this. And, I got chills down my spine hearing her talk to the board. And she brought up, the principle of informed consent, right? Going clear back to World War II and the nasty experiments that Joseph Mengele was doing. It's been an established principle of law around the world that you do not subject people to experimental, unapproved treatments or experiments without informed consent. That means everybody needs to be made aware of the potential risks, the potential benefits, and of course that's not happening here. And so she argues that this what's happening is a violation of these principles. She also highlighted, interestingly, the emergency use authorization. So under federal statutes and regulations, the COVID shot is not actually approved by the FDA. A lot of people don't realize that because you're not hearing that on the news, but it was never approved by the FDA. What it did get was something called emergency use authorization. So if there's no other treatment, and a lot of doctors have said hydroxychloroquine is a treatment, ivermectin. So I encourage people to look into those things. But if there is no known treatment, then people can use experimental drugs. However, under no circumstances, under the laws governing these things, can those be forced on anybody or mandated. In fact, you better check your life insurance policy. There's some real questions about whether if you take an experimental, unapproved drug, that'll pay out. But what she said is they have no authority to force these on the kids. And, man, she vowed to retaliate if they proceeded with this. So let's show a little clip from that, and people can see what the officials there in California and Orange County heard.
Lee Dundas, human rights attorney. Late last week, I am informed a meeting occurred between Orange County Health Officer Dr. Clayton Shao and Orange County Board of Education Superintendent Al Maharz, during which time they apparently tried to find a way to, quote, sidestep and entirely remove informed parental consent for the COVID vaccine and also turn Orange County school campuses into vaccination centers. The COVID-19 vaccine is an experimental medical protocol authorized under the Emergency Use Authorization Act, and as such, you cannot mandate it for anyone, nor can you sidestep informed consent. There is a reason that kids cannot smoke, drive, drink, have sex, vote, or die for this country. And it is because the law says they lack the capacity to understand those decisions. And that applies here more than ever.
All right, that was pretty remarkable. Is it typical, though, when we see people talking to school boards, they sit there stone-faced, they say nothing, and after it's over, she steps down? Was there any response from the school board? Did any sense at all that they heard her, or was this one more condescending, say your piece, honey, and hit the road?
Yeah, I think that this speech and others, right? There was a lot of parents who were just absolutely furious. I think that really caused alarm in the local leadership there in Orange County and even across the state of California. It does seem like, and I mentioned earlier on the before we went to break, Dr. Chow kind of, well, these are rumors. We're not going to do that. Don't worry. We're not going to sidestep parents. So I think that really put the fear of God in them, and they realized, oh, okay, I guess we can't just do whatever we feel like it. And I get the sense that this is brewing all across California. They're talking now about recalling the governor in Shasta County. They talk about recalling all their commissioners. People in California are really getting upset, and I think Americans, especially liberty-minded Americans, may be surprised to see some of what's going to be coming out of California in the weeks and months ahead. I think these people have been pushed to the absolute brink, and like we just saw this attorney Dundas, people are just, they're ready to explode. They're tired of this stuff, and I think it should be a warning to California officials. You cannot just run over these people like they're slaves or zombies or just subject to your every whim. People are going to resist.
Imagine how much pushback we would achieve as a nation if one in every 50 public school moms did this. 1 in every 50 public school dads showed up at their local school board meeting and raised holy hell. This would you can see even in a place like California where they really don't, in their minds, they really don't care about parental rights. How much you can push these people back on their heels if you just get the turnout. We've said this from the beginning. This is a battle that the American people can still win if they're willing to fight it. But you gotta fight it.
That's exactly right. And now's the time to get involved, folks. Once you go too far down this road, there's no coming back. So get involved now. Get off the couch. Get your children out of these indoctrination centers and get to work before the whole country and our liberties go down the drain.
You think you've seen it all. Wait till you see what school looks like under the new fear and loathing curriculum, I call it, where they can actually lock you down. Alex Newman, the Newman Report. Thanks for your time today. Joined now by Tina Griffin, the counterculture mom. Tina, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is one of the most confusing stories we had to report thus far.
It's an interesting one, though. Apparently, Caitlyn Jenner is running for governor of California to unseat Gavin Newsom. And this raises all sorts of issues. Give us your thoughts on the situation.
Well, first of all, just for everybody tuning in here, we have some new, some old, and some that are like Caitlyn Jenner. I thought he was William Bruce Jenner. So yes, you are correct. She was a he in former years. Caitlyn Jenner is exploring a run for governor of California against Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, who is facing a possible recall election later this year. So woot woot to that, because I want him out of office since he first got in there. The recall is due to his immigration, tax policies, along with other crazy things of how he handled the coronavirus. But to go back with Caitlyn Jenner, just to give a preview of her former life, William Bruce Jenner burst onto the national stage when he won the 1976 Olympic decathlon. He transitioned to a woman in 2015, adopted his new name, Caitlyn Jenner. He's still a he. He looks like a he even after having long hair, earrings, and a dress. But there's a whole other situation. The thing is, I am actually pleased that we are trying to get rid of Newsom. He returned to the public spotlight several years earlier in the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which chronicled the life of the blended family into which he married in 1991. He is a father to Kylie and Kendall Jenner. Everybody knows the Jenner family, even if they don't want to know the Jenner family. And right now, he's leaning toward running if the election is actually going to be held. So, Dr. Duke, what do you think's going on here with this election? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the other piece of the puzzle that's so confusing, as you said, is that he is apparently Jenner is apparently a Republican, which is an odd place for him. I guess that much of his policy views, much of his former life was he considered himself to be more of a Republican than a Democrat, and of course, the Republican Party is a less friendly place for transgenderism than the Democrat Party, which openly embraces that kind of stuff. So it's even complicated on that level as well. I mean, I know for a fact, from the last we heard, Republicans aren't raising money for him to run. So he may be identifying as a Republican. Probably his best bet would be to do an independent run, right? I mean, it's kind of a way of disavowing either the Democrats or the Republicans. Running independent would be like his decision to change his gender, right? One of those things that tries to square you up in the middle there somewhere. But I got one thing I want to say is that, there's one really, really good reason why you want Jenner to win in California.
And why is that, Dr. Duke?
Wouldn't it be nice to have actually a masculine governor for a change? I mean, whatever Caitlyn Jenner is, she's still got way more male moxie than panty boy. Oh, did I say panty boy? I meant to say pajama boy, Gavin Newsom.
Absolutely. And you know what? Looking back in history, in 2003, California Governor Gray Davis, a Democrat, faced the same situation here as Newsom. He was recalled and replaced by Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. A former bodybuilder, star of the Terminator movies. You guys remember him well. The California Secretary of State is expected to announce soon that the Newsom recall effort has officially qualified for an election. Now, here's some good news. Dr. Duke with underwear, panty boy, and PJ person that you were just referring to. The recall organizers say they have exceeded the 1.5 million signatures needed to get them out of there. So let's just see what happens. Such an election will likely be held later this year, and at least we have someone stepping up to the plate. It's not, what majority of Americans probably would be hoping would, take that seat, but we need someone. And obviously, Jenner is up for the challenge, and he's well known. But like you said, we have an issue with the backed funding. But who knows what can happen here? Jenner is a transgender, which the media celebrates. But Jenner is also a highly profile Republican, like you said, previous Trump supporter, which they made clear. So it's going to be a very interesting situation here.
Over the course of their careers, who's taken more hormones, Schwarzenegger or Jenner?
Yes, and download that Counterculture Mom app so you can raise counterculture warriors in your home. We just blasted out 6 alerts this morning that'll make your jaw drop. Protect your children. Keep them away from this craziness going on in our government, in our Hollywood political system that's closely tied, and get them some positive entertainment. We have free movies we run in there all the time, tons of resources. If your kids are suicidal and depressed because of COVID, we've got a lot of resources to help them out. We have ways that kids can write a book, get a blog started, get a fashion show off the ground, all positive stuff for our kids to look up to. Let's get modest dressing back. Let's get political corrupt leaders out of office and all the rest. So download the Counterculture Mom app, jump in, join our posse here, and let's get started. Get America back on track.
I'm still confused. Hormones will lead either to Caitlyn Jenner or to
no.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm just freaking out over that. It's time for some real education. We're talking about St. Augustine, the great father of the church, giving us advice 1,400 years later about the nature of surviving in a world that is persecuting you for your beliefs. He was a citizen of Rome in Africa. He was a professor of classical Greek literature and culture. He was a pagan, as he described himself, until his blessed mother, Saint Monica, encountered Christianity. She became a convert, and she kept working on her son, Augustine, until finally he looked into Christianity and became this incredible intellect on behalf of Christian ideology and theology. And so all week long on Instant Classics, we've provided you with quotes from St. Augustine as an attempt to try to buck you up. You're living in an era where, certainly with regards to your kids' education, they're under assault. The powers, the metaphorical Roman Empire of the American educrat class is persecuting your kids. And so listen to Augustine. We get a sense from Augustine of ways to maintain our faith and our mental well-being when we're under such persecutions. Today's quote is an interesting one. It talks about his own personal struggle. One of the things that Augustine was, as a pagan, he was very fond of was visiting the whorehouses, visiting the houses of prostitution. He got quite addicted to that. Of course, in the Roman Empire, this was normal. It was not considered illegal. The state funded these, and they were considered legitimate businesses. And so one of the hardest things for Augustine when he became a Christian was to put that part of his life behind him. And you get this great quote from the Confessions. Chastity, he calls upon the Lord. Chastity, or cleanness of heart, holds a glorious and distinguished place among the virtues, because she alone enables a man to see God. That's beautiful. To be chaste in mind and soul and body is what allows you to see the perfect cleanliness of God. Hence, truth itself said, "Blessed are the clean of heart, for they shall see God." O Lord, he prayed, give me chastity, but just don't give it yet. And what a fascinating thing. He was so caught on that particular sin that he would pray to God for chastity, but beg God, just not quite yet, haven't quite shaken the monkey off my back. It reminds me of St. Paul. You may remember that St. Paul talks about throughout his letters a certain thorn in his side, a certain sin which he never named, that even though he was doing the work of the Lord, even though he was risking his life, facing martyrdom for his beliefs, he couldn't get past that sin. We don't know what it was. It wouldn't surprise me if it was some kind of sexual sin, but we don't know. And it just goes to show you the nature of Christianity is that, even if you become the most highly refined Christian out there, your motives, your understanding of the faith is top notch, we still are creatures of sin. The body is a wasteland of sin. And so if you're a Christian who's struggling with your behavior while trying to reconcile your Christianity, take some comfort in knowing that the greatest Christians who've ever lived, from St. Paul to St. Augustine, had the same problems. All right, just a quick reminder to please download our brand new Freedom Project Media app. You'll get access to 18 new shows a week, 18, plus our brilliant library of content. Simply search for Freedom Project in your app store and make sure you allow us to notify you. And if you're a fan of the show, do please consider a one-time tax-deductible donation that will go to support our Patriot Club, and we'll send you our signature tumbler. Visit patriotclub.us, that's patriotclub.us. Now we want to take a moment to show some love to our Patriot Club members. Today we give a shout out to Ivan from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Like, I'm freaking out, man. Didn't Rocky Balboa take on Ivan Drago? I must break you. Thank you for supporting us, Ivan. We appreciate it. And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. Until next time, yo, stay Adrian, my friends.